That was fun. So this is the part where we cut this segment. Say, hey, listen to the end for the freestyle session. Well, welcome everyone to the second episode of Life After Sales podcast. It's Ding Zhang here, the sales rapper, your host, and today I'm very excited to have Eric Smith, otherwise known as the lowly SDR, founder and CEO at Above Ground, with us today. A former salesperson turned business owner. Eric, welcome.
Hey, Ding. What's going on, man? Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. So Eric and I met through, it's a funny story actually. So Eric and I met through YouTube over a decade prior. Both of us are musicians and rappers, content creators at the time. But we didn't really talk for quite some time until sales, interestingly enough, brought us back together. And now Eric's a great collaborator, business partner in the B2B marketing, content branding space. So yeah, welcome. Eric, tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, pleasure to be here, man. And so a little backstory about me. So early days growing up, I wanted to be a hockey player, and that was kind of my path. And I had like a pretty bad skateboarding accident, cracked my skull open, had brain hemorrhage, almost died. It was pretty intense. So and from there, I suffered like a lot of mental issues. Like that's when my depression and anxiety started. So like my kind of path and journey just completely changed. And I started getting more into like writing and stuff like that. Long story short, I always wanted to like own and operate a recording studio. So that's what I went to school for. And in college, I learned a lot. This is like my introduction to business. I took music business and audio engineering classes and stuff like that. I was like helping run the studio at SEC. My music instructor had his own studio, and he'd let us operate stuff on Wednesdays. So like it was pretty cool. If clients didn't come in, we got to do our own stuff. But if clients did come in, we got to deal with them and record their own stuff. Unfortunately, he passed away pretty early on, and things just kind of crumbled from there. So in my 20s, I started playing poker professionally and did that for a long time, and it was great. I enjoyed it a lot. But it was kind of just like a weird career for me, as far as like it was very stressful and probably not like the best environment for me at the time. So after I had a lot of injuries and stuff like that, I also got hooked on painkillers. So getting clean off of that and getting my life together, I was like, what do I do now? So I wanted to go into sales, because that was like something I felt like, okay, this is like the more you put in, the more you get out of it kind of mentality. And my dad was a lifelong salesman. So I journeyed into that. I had random jobs in sales throughout my life, like retail and stuff like that. My dad worked in the commercial rubber industry. So I kind of grew up around that. And my first like AE job was commercial finance. I worked at this place called Balboa Capital, and my sister got a job at Sendoso, a SaaS company. I didn't even know what SaaS was, so went over there and interviewed, and they hired me on as an SDR. I had no idea what an SDR was, and then I got fired like 3 months later. COVID hit, got fired, and it was kind of like, oh shit, what do I do now? So I started Above Ground. I started the Lowly SDR podcast, and used Above Ground as a proof of concept, and it was going to be podcasting and video editing services at first, but then just kind of naturally blossomed into like full service digital marketing. So we do SEO, we do web design, we do video, and like I said, podcasts. Essentially those are our core, but we can do outsourced sales, PPC, paid ads, social, all that stuff. And we can even do like music videos, rap videos. Me and Ding have like collaborated on that, and that's been pretty cool. So it's like the mentality is kind of like creative content, how it can drive sales, and then kind of making sure that you have all the systems in place. So like doing the SEO and the web design and stuff like that is to ensure all that other content marketing works. So
that's
kind
brilliant.
Of here we are.
Yeah. So Eric, one thing that stood out to me is you brought up early on being in the studio environment, making music, and then transferring over to being a professional poker player. I see the poker face right now. and then going into the commercial finance side of sales. So first of all, that's a long journey even before entering SaaS, right, and hitting the tech space. So let's dive into that, unpack a little bit. Specifically, I'm personally interested in the music, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners are interested in the poker side. So how did those two things set you up when you first entered sales? Did you find that having that background in poker or the studio environment gave you any fundamentals, foundations to build your sales ability on?
Yeah. So I think that's a great question. Like with music, right? Like I didn't realize how much I learned about business doing music and learning that industry, but I was taking classes on music business. So there was a lot of like how to create a press kit and how to market yourself. And these were early days, like pre-social media and stuff like that. So it was a lot of like, okay, this is how you package yourself. This is how you present yourself. And this is how you kind of essentially build a brand, right? So I kind of learned that, and like running like a studio and etc. That was how I got a crash course in like client management and like understanding, okay, dealing with clients, what are they trying to get out of this, and setting them up to succeed, right? And during that time as well, I was DJing, and that was my first venture into business. Was I did private weddings and parties and stuff like that. So I learned how to go out and source my own clients and, come up with different rates and how to negotiate with clients and different people like that and stuff like that. So that was kind of like very important for me. And the poker side of it as well, I would say I learned more about business and like life in general, and a lot about myself from playing poker, because it's interesting. People think like, oh, you're a professional gambler or whatever. But the way I approached it was like very different. And it is gambling. Like, don't get me wrong. And that was the tough part for it. For me was the ups and downs. But
yeah, sounds kind of like sales, the ups and downs.
Exactly.
So Eric, give us an example of what's a specific instance in poker that had that carryover effect.
Yeah. So in poker, the idea is like you want to go into games that you have an edge in, right? So there's like a lot of research and preparation that goes into poker before you even play. So say I play in a specific game. So I used to be a cash game player, where you put the money on the table and you can leave and come and go whenever you want. So if there was a specific game I was playing, like I was a 2-3, 3-5, 5-10 player, and that's the blind levels of it. So if I was playing 2-3, I knew it was going to be more recreational players, people that were just coming in to have fun. So I had to adjust my strategy to that. So I would study hands and different like ranges of hands to play and how I can maximize against those type of people. And I knew that there would be a lot more variance in games like that, because yes, I might get unlucky and I might lose to someone who has kind of no idea what they're doing, but in the long run, I was going to make money, because getting unlucky means that there was a small percentage of chance that they would win. So I had to learn how to take those losses and know that I'm in this for the long run. And with business, it's a lot like that. In sales, it's like that. Like say you're building your pipeline, or you might miss quota 1 month, but if you can tell yourself like, I reached out to a ton of people and I set up future dates to talk with people and to follow up with them, it's going to pay off later in the long run. And with business, sometimes you have to make investments and take some losses on things to learn, to set you up for the future. And yeah, it was really, really like a great thing for me to learn, especially at the age.
Yeah, so I heard kind of two main takeaways for sales from that poker experience. One being that really hone in on your audience, right? What type of game are you playing? Is it more semi-pro type of game where people are leveraging common strategies and best practices? There's process, there's buyer committees, so to speak, right? And you have to navigate legal and finance. And it's a more nuanced type of sale for higher payoff in some cases, because the blinds are higher, so the pots are bigger, right? But it's more difficult to consistently get high win rates at those. Whereas there's other games.
Yeah.
Yeah, the SMBs, right? The more casual cash games, those are, if you go into with the consistent execution, you know your strategy, you've calculated your risk and your win rates. Hey, you might have a bad month. It might be seasonality. You might get unlucky because even though it was a calculated 17% chance of loss, you know, just because you have a good odds on winning doesn't mean you'll always win. So, you know, it sounds like separating the types of games or the types of outcomes and optimizing for that and being consistent over the long run.
Exactly. Yeah, and like that, I think that's a great analogy. Is like, the lower games, like you said, might be like SMB, where you might be able to have like a more consistent win rate, but you're never gonna hit it big, right? But if you learn that industry, you can carve out like a nice niche for yourself, and then take that to like enterprise, where you have these lengthy deal cycles, and you might be working on like 1-2 accounts for an entire year, but once they close, it's like boom, you're hitting like that hundred
Yeah.
thousands of dollars, right? And like that's what it's like being against pros, because you're dealing with a different type of people, right? So like when
Yeah.
you're dealing with enterprise, you're dealing with like decision makers that know their shit, and you better come
Yeah.
correct,
You know
so
what's funny is the parallel is really great with the enterprise example because at the professional level of poker, people know all the strategies, they're educated, they have an idea of what tactics you're going to come with, right? And on the
Exactly.
enterprise buyer side, they're often sophisticated, educated, they've done the research on the market and the other tools. So you can't pull the sheep's wool metaphorically over their eyes. And I think it works the same way in poker too.
Yeah, exactly. Like with like you might reach out to like a newer founder, pre-seed, maybe Series A or something company, where they're still building out their tech stack, and you might be able to drop on them like, yo, here's this new product, and this is how it's gonna enable your company or whatever, right? And they might just be impressed that like it's a new tool that they've never heard of or something like that. But when you're dealing with an enterprise company, they have that shit figured out, right? They have teams of people, and they have tons of money behind it, to where you better come to them and tell them why the tools they're using right now isn't as effective, and how you can increase. And you better come with numbers and facts and testimonials and use cases, where on the other side of it, it might just be, you might be able to use more cheaper tricks, right? Like, whatever it is just, you can swindle them, for lack of a better words, into taking a demo or closing a deal, trying something out. But with the enterprise, yeah, it's more mind games. It's more like, I know that that I know, type of strategy.
Yeah.
And that's where poker gets really complex and fun to me. I love
Yeah.
that stuff. So I was attracted to enterprise, and that more of that game, right, rather than the kind of more transactional aspect.
Yeah, there's the gamesmanship, but also I think the best poker players, they make it easy for the competitors to perform the actions they want. Right? Maybe you limp a hand or something. You play the subtle trick. Maybe you're raising pre-flop to do these subtle things, and the gamesmanship, it's appreciated. It's like enterprise. Make it easy for your buyer. Obviously, you're not bluffing. You got to actually come with value in the B2B world. But hey, I mean, in poker, there's a perceived value too, right? If they beat you in that hand, they're winning the pot. So that's
Yeah.
still value.
Exactly. And like a big thing is consistency, right? So at the top level, it's like it's grinding out small edges, but the idea is like to be more consistent, to make less mistakes than your opponent. Whereas in smaller games, it's about waiting until your opponents make mistakes. Like there's no reason to go and try to gamble against someone. Like, okay, so say like you have ace king or something against pocket queens, and people are like, oh, it's a coin flip. But like when you get to a professional level, that's not a great like spot to be in, because half of the time you're going to lose. And that's something that you learn, is that it's like, I'm going to be consistent and wait for these like less skilled players to make mistakes. And then in the higher levels, it's more about waiting, like playing your best, grinding out the edges, and waiting for the luck to come to you, right? Because it is a factor of it. And like in sales, it's kind of similar, right? Like instead of like taking huge shots and huge risks, and in business too, this can apply. Like just to be consistent and do the things day in and day out, and luck will come. Like luck is in sales, and you might just get a rush of people ready to buy right then, or like in business, things just might start to come together, and you network really well. It's all about being consistent and not worried about like the day in, day out wins and losses.
Absolutely. And that's a great segue, Eric, into the business side of things. So we've touched on your pre-sales career and to transition towards the sales and the business and entrepreneurship journey. I'm curious, having both of us previously been in sales and now running our own businesses, what was the catalyst for you wanting to go out and start your own thing? Because that is a big, scary task for a lot of people, right? What caused Eric to no longer be the lowly SDR, leave the world of sales specifically, and go into business?
Yeah, so it's funny. I think I was actually fortunate. And people might not look at this when they hear the story, but like I was in SaaS and I was super excited and I thought this was going to be the career and I thought I landed a gold mine. But when I was fired, it was literally rock bottom. And that's kind of the idea behind Above Ground. The name was like, I dealt with addiction. I dealt with like becoming and working so hard to get to that point. And then I just like hit another rock bottom of my life because I thought like, my days of being an addict were my rock bottom. And then I worked so hard to get to this place where I was like happy to talk about what I was doing. And I felt like I was socially accepted for what I was doing, even though I was making shit money and like it was like not that great of a role. But
Yeah.
all the optics of it were together, right? And then I got fired and I was like, shit, what do I do? And I always knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I just always had that entrepreneurial spirit. I was always kind of a, self, like I made my own money, right? And
Yeah.
so it was like rock bottom to above ground. And so what I did was I it was like kind of not a choice. I needed to make this work, and that kind of fire under my ass. Like one, I had something to prove because like I'm dangerous when I'm doubted, right? And like to be fired and just like thrown in the trash like that was like a huge motivator for me. And it was COVID. I didn't have like a ton of options, and if I went out and tried to get another sales job and that didn't work out, not only would I be pigeonholed as an SDR, but I probably couldn't find another sales job. So it was either like go out and get a sales job and really work at it and do well, or try this out and then build a network. And at the very least, it was going to help me get probably a better job in the long run.
That's right. Yeah, I love that mentality. And Eric, this is I was in a very similar situation where I had lost my job during the height of the pandemic, and now in 2022, right, hot job market, all that stuff. But there was a period of time in 2020 into 2021, no one was hiring for revenue positions at all. And so that was a scary time if you had, like Eric and myself, recently lost your job. And so with that transition coming, and for myself as well, right, helping to land that next sales role, building a personal brand to get in front of hiring managers, I think still a great strategy to this day. But where I see the difference was I think you had set out with the explicit mindset, hey, I'm going to build this thing. I'm going to try and make it work. Where it came a little bit more organically later on for me. But where do you think that confidence came from to be able to, hey, you were fired from your last sales role and then now going into this unknown market with this new company, new brand, new concept? What gave you the confidence to go make that move and commit to it?
So I think when I was in SaaS, that's when all of this started to click together. I was an SDR, and while I was at Sendoso, I met with the CMO one night, and we were just like drinking, chatting, like smoking cigarettes and stuff like that. And like he was just asking me about like what I did, and I could see like in him, like he believed in me. And it was weird because in that role, I felt like the deck was stacked against me. My manager didn't like me. Like it was just always performance reviews and what I was doing wrong, nothing about what I was doing right. But he was like, man, you have all these skills and like, sales, like we should create like a role for you. So I started creating content for them. And I just realized that like when I started like getting on LinkedIn and researching these companies, being an SDR, like just doing my discovery and like researching companies, like these companies would raise millions of dollars and their social footprint would be absolute shit and like bad websites and like just not doing anything. And I'm I'm like, wait, like I always thought I couldn't be a marketer because I didn't like go to school for it. But I was like, man, I have, not only do I have like more technical skills than a lot of these people, but like I'm speaking to founders and stuff like that. I'm speaking to like the CMO who seems to like believe in me, and that kind of gave me the idea of like, man, I think I could really help like a lot of people in this industry. And it was like a self belief. It's like that idea of like, put it out into the world, believe in yourself, or else no one else is going to believe in you. If you're doubting yourself, then what the hell is someone else going to think of? Like
That's
when
right.
you're trying to sell yourself on it, right?
Yeah. So to tie this tangent back to the life after sales theme, what were some of the skills and habits from your past sales experience that helped you along the journey starting up the business?
So I think like with sales, one of my biggest issues is like organization and kind of like making sure that you do things like a certain way, right? And like with sales, I think this is an underutilized skill that people don't realize is that you need to understand how a business works and like what's going well, what's working well in order to sell them, right? Because you're coming to the table and you're trying to offer them a solution of like, this is what's going to drive you more revenue. But if you don't understand that business, you're not going to be able to speak to that. So I had to learn like corporate structure and personas and different buying personas and what they think about, what they care about, how that all works, like who answers to who really has the power in these corporate structures, different SMB to mid-market to enterprise, and learning those buzzwords. Like me and Ding have talked about this a lot, is like just knowing, like just coming to a conversation with the founder or CEO or head of marketing or something and be like, all right, so what's your ICP? Like, what's your guys' burn rate? Like what are you guys doing to, figure out your ICP? How are you marketing to them? Like what's your,
Yeah.
like what's your strategy behind, your lead generation, your what point of the sales funnel are these people getting
Yep.
stuck in, and
It's
just
the
knowing
opportunity
those buzzwords.
stages. We got all these great buzzwords. Oh, here's your total addressable market, right? I think in my early years as a rapper, definitely would not be in my vocabulary, but it's
Oh,
true.
man, I learned all this shit
Yeah.
just recently, man. Like I didn't even have a LinkedIn. I didn't know what SaaS was. Like, like
Yeah.
I understand. I knew that like there's like a CEO and a CMO, but in SaaS you have like all these made up titles and stuff, and like the corporate structure is sometimes non-traditional. So it's like it's really helpful, and like you'll realize it later down the line.
Absolutely, Eric. So I think the sales acumen of it sounds like it gave you a lot of good insight into the language of business, understanding what the needle movers are in business, right? Because I think in B2B sales specifically, no matter what product or service you sell, you're selling transformation. And it's really important to understand, for something to undergo transformation, you need that pre and post state, right? What's the current state? What's the future state? To quote Keenan, shout out to Keenan, gap selling here. But without the insight, the context, and the terminology to be able to accurately describe the current state and relate the current pains and problems that your buyers are facing, without knowing what their ideal future looks like, the processes, the results, and the metrics that they want to be generating, you're never going to make that sale. So absolutely spot on with that, Eric.
Yeah, and like the ability to speak to people too is like, so I'm a freestyler, and like I'm naturally kind of like an introvert, right? And like I was kind of like a damaged person, like coming into sales and stuff like that, just from what I've been through, and like just my background, right? And the forcing me to make cold calls was like the worst thing for me, like so anxiety driven and stuff like that. But when I got hired on in commercial finance, my boss was so intrigued by the fact I played poker and that I was like a rapper and freestyler. He was like, man, like if you can play poker and you can handle these intense situations and you can freestyle like off the top of your head in these situations, he's like, you could do this all day, man. Like nothing's going to hurt you. You pick up that phone, you talk to someone, nothing bad's going to happen. And the ability to think on your feet and strategize and like call reviews, like with poker, you go back, you look at hands and you analyze like what I could have done better, and do things in different situations. Like I had to really work through that anxiety and that fear of cold calling, and it helped me like with the podcast and with dealing with clients and stuff like that, because it's like it's so unnatural like to call people up and handle like deal with rejection all the time. Like it makes you a stronger person, really like hardens your skin, and it's something that is completely overlooked like as a salesperson.
I'll say this. So as a rapper and freestyler myself, one of the things
one of the best, man.
Hey, appreciate you, man. I'm gonna have to hit. We haven't done this yet on the podcast, but on the note of the freestyling and the uncomfortable situations, what I've actually found is, because I was not that successful as a musician, I never really played a lot of stage shows in front of live audiences. But I did have the fortune of, when I lived and worked in New York, I would go to the street cypher events. We'd be in Washington Square Park underneath the gate with a speaker and a bucket, 20 people and a camera person, and just kicking freestyles in a circle as thousands of people walked around us. So that was something that helped build thicker skin. And later on, now, as a marketing activation rapper for these companies at conferences and events and stuff, that's been really helpful. But what I actually found was I had the reverse effect. So when I went into sales and started cold calling, that was a new and transformative experience for me. Embracing the fear of the unknown, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. And later on, when the rap career or the creator influencer side of things took off more, I had the opportunity to get in front of large crowds and stages. It was actually the sales and the cold calling experience that made me not nervous, because the mentality was, hey, I could stand up in front of here. Y'all are here to see me, and I could see your face. Oh, that's amazing. Because I used to sit there at the headset dialing down a list of 100 people who I didn't know what they looked like. I was interrupting their day, soliciting their time and money, right? And everything else becomes pretty easy after that.
Damn, I just thought of like a dope like idea of like being able to like cold call people, but it's on Zoom, right? Like so that you can like see their face, and like I don't know how that would work or how that would be integrated, but that would be kind of a cool like ability to do
so
that.
So Eric,
I guess, like,
what's funny is I don't know if you were as active on LinkedIn. This was during like a 1 or 2 month stretch last year in early Q4, but there was a big LinkedIn meme series about cold FaceTime. I think shout out to Patrick Downs, Jed Marley at PandaDoc.
Shout out to Patrick Downs, man.
Patrick Downs. He's actually, what company is he at now? I'm going to give him a shout out.
Beard, man.
Yeah. But he's not at PandaDoc anymore. So I want to make sure I'm giving the proper credit and attribution, marketing attribution. There we go. Brand ambassador right here at Sapling. Shout out to Sapling.
Shout out, man. That's a good hire right there for Sapling.
That's a great hire. Yeah. This is a good sponsorship opportunity, eh?
Yeah. Hit up Ding. Got you.
Yeah. So, but cold FaceTimes, and I think the reason that topic got so viral is that because cold calling already has such a visceral feel, right? You think of Leo DiCaprio and Wolf of Wall Street heading up the investor center, jumping on the phone and selling the primo Midwest startup penny stock. But with the FaceTime, it's like, man, there's that added pressure. You can see my facial expression. I can't hide behind the phone. It's so visceral.
Yeah, for me, it seems more comforting. I don't know why. Like the idea of the unknown maybe makes me more uncomfortable. When I see people on camera, there's like this goes back to freestyling. Like it makes it easier because I have more to work with, right?
That's
like
right.
It's like for a poker analogy, right? Like you're dealing with incomplete information all the time, right? Like you have like the board out there that everyone's playing off with the community cards, but
playing some poker right now.
Yeah, but their cards are the incomplete information, right?
Yeah.
And like with the video, like I can see the person, I can get a better vibe of like how they're feeling, what they're doing. Like if they pick up a video call and the baby's crying in the background and I see like dudes like bloodshot eyes and bags under his eyes, like I probably like take a different approach rather than someone who's like all cheerful and like maybe drinking a beer or something like
Yeah.
that. I don't
You
know.
see someone like Tim Savage with 120 sales books in the background, you best come correct.
Yeah, start freestyling or start dropping like some knowledge about those. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So on the topic of life after sales, some of the negative sides of sales, right? Because I think in this industry, there's a big trend of we love to celebrate sales, and sales is awesome. There's so many great things about sales, but there is a darker side. So what were some of the things that you didn't like about sales that either caused you to want to start out on your own business, or things that you found impeded your success early on, or habits that you had to break from sales?
So I think with sales, it's like I said, it's a lot of rejection, and people that deal with mental health issues or that are kind of fragile emotionally, like they can be hard workers, super smart and driven, but that sales, it comes from this like kind of, hard knock, like tough skin, like
Yeah.
don't care, just like grind through it, get past it.
You're a
That's
hustler. What have you done for me lately? Coffees for closers.
popular closers, exactly. And I think that is changing a lot, but it's also like hard for like your sales managers, right? Like they have quotas they need to hit and they have bosses to answer to. So like what I realized is that like I was putting in the work and I was trying my hardest, but if the results didn't show that, no one gave a shit, So that was hard for me when it was like sometimes I cared too much, right? And like
Yeah.
I'm just like an emotional person. So I remember being on like one-on-ones and like my manager just be like, "So what are you doing?" Because they're just looking at like the leaderboard or the my metrics or whatever, and it's like you have no fucking idea what like every night I'm going home prospecting on LinkedIn and doing research on accounts, and like with a typical job, you go in, you work, you clock out, you forget about it, right? But like with sales, you're constantly thinking about it, and there's always like that money motivating factor of it. So it's like a double-edged sword, and I think it can just be very hard on people and you can get drained out. So I think there's like a ton of burnout in it as well. Like if you're not like a robot and you're just like hopped up on fucking Adderall 24/7, like it's tough, man, because it is a grind. And if you don't do things and put processes into place and like work life balance or whatever, like there's just a reality to it where it's like sometimes you just have to grind, you have to get through it, and that can be damaging, especially for someone like me.
Yeah, I totally hear that, and I personally relate to that as well. During my my SAS AE days, I was the rep that was working 80 hours a week, traveling for work every other week, and not really taking a lot of time for balance. And I would say that even to this day, that's something that I haven't figured out. I'm just naturally the person who's about output, and really high activity metrics, holding myself accountable. And that stuff is great, don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
It's
I
good
admire
stuff.
the shit out of you a lot, like we're both like grinders, and do you think you learned that from sales? Like, do you
Yeah,
think?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'll say this, I used to not have that strong of a work ethic. I graduated school with a 3.3 GPA. I was the kid that would go to music videos shoots instead of going to class, right? And my
3.3 GPA.
huh?
Was that like? Are you ashamed of your 3.3 GPA?
Yeah.
Oh, you don't even want to know mine. I don't even know.
Well, here's the thing is I went to Boston College and everyone was
Damn.
a super hardo at BC, right?
Impressive.
So 3.3 is low.
Yeah.
3.3 is low for BC. Like I graduated with all these kids that had 3.85s, 3.9s that ended up working at McKinsey and Bain and BCG and these prestigious companies. So when I first graduated, and I said, "Hey, I have this sales job at Yelp in New York. They're gonna pay me $42,000 a year." Right, and meanwhile, my classmates were making six figures out of the gates. So it was I had that chip on my shoulder when I first entered sales, and that was also when I gave up my music career because I had I think one of the reasons I was so scatterbrained and unfocused before sales was that I was always trying to do music on the side. So I never really focused on school. I didn't try hard at my career prior to starting in sales. But after getting into that environment and seeing a lot of successful people around me that were elevating in their careers, that were making really good money, and I watched the way they operate, right? And they all had button-up processes, a lot of work ethic, going the extra mile. So that's I was really fortunate to be in a high energy, high work ethic environment like Yelp to start my career, which helped me build those skills. I give other people a lot of credit. It wasn't something that I necessarily had to change my mindset or undergo, a massive life event to change. I placed myself in a better environment where people were working hard and getting results from that hard work, and it just fed into this virtuous cycle of change. So maybe that's the advice for the listener is if you want to do well and you want to change your behaviors, your environment is really important.
Yeah, your environment, like that's like great life advice. And it's like that saying, like if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, and like I really try to take that to heart. I try to surround my people that are trying to like better me and trying to, like make the best version of myself. Like this relationship I just got out of, I felt that a lot where it was like I wanted someone to push me. And in the beginning, it was a lot of that where it was like I wanted to be the best version of myself, and we wanted to work together to, dream big and accomplish things, and that started to fall off where she seemed like she was just okay with what she was doing, and that's fine. No, it's like knock on anyone doing something and realizing that this is, but that like there needs to be some type of ambition or goal, like being the best at whatever you're doing, or like having some hobbies, or just wanting to if it's exercise or whatever, or being the best mother, or like best girlfriend, I don't know, whatever, just like dream like a little bit, try to work towards something, be the best version of yourself.
Well, if you think about how the way like our dopamine receptors work in human neurology, psychology with that, dopamine is produced in the anticipation of payoff, not necessarily when the moment you get the payoff, right? So I hear a lot of people say, and I haven't experienced this because I don't think I've made it at all, but people that have quote unquote made it, they're all like, hey, your life doesn't really change. I do think there's elements of that. It is you do take things for granted once you get there. I do think if you take someone who's in an early stage of their career and the next day you make them a VP somewhere, they're gonna be pretty happy about that, right? And the lifestyle increases. They're gonna be happy for a while. But eventually you do get to the point of stagnation, and then it's important to have the consistent feedback and improvement and progress. I think progress is the key word here. And I think that's something that we've both experienced, in this entrepreneurship journey, just working with different types of clients, building the brand more, working on different types of projects, challenging our own abilities, and then delivering the results. I think it's been a really transformative and educational experience.
Yeah. Like in poker, to tie it, poker back in again, like I saw that happen a lot where I was kind of like a small stakes grinder, and I had friends that hit it big on some big tournaments, right? They're cash game players or something. They hit it big for like 200, 300 grand or something like that. I had some friends that won millions. Wow. And what would happen is like, they would jump up into stakes because they had bigger bankrolls, but they thought like they had it figured out because now they had more money, and they stopped learning, they stopped improving on their game. And that downfall is like a lot tougher than that rise up. And what the fuck is going on here?
Oh, I don't know what's going on here. Hold on. Sometimes my filter sometimes just accidentally click. I mean,
yeah, like yours,
it's pretty bananas if I do say so myself.
I love that. Oh shit.
Yeah. If you're listening, I guess here's the free sales tip here. If you want to have cool video effects on Zoom, shout out to Snap. Go to Snap Camera. Hey, it's going to sponsor the podcast. Oh, I'm alien. But it's a cool way to add a little bit more of an engagement layer. If you're remote selling, you're on Zoom a lot, right? And instead of right before you drop a corny joke, turn yourself into a little corn on the cob.
I was waiting for that one.
Yeah, and these work great for prospecting videos. So put them in a Vidyard cadence. Shout out to Vidyard, awesome tool. Or even natively, right? You can on Zoom record something and then send that video natively on LinkedIn. Exactly.
I think on your phone. I don't know if there's functionality for it on.
Well, it's actually easier on your phone, believe it or not, because this app comes from Snapchat, right? So all you have to do is you open up Snapchat, get the filter that you want, or go on TikTok, get the filter that you want, record your video, download the video, and then send it through LinkedIn message.
Yeah. Yeah, technology, man. Like,
it's insane. But the thing is, I don't see that many salespeople utilizing all this new tech.
Dude, even just video. Like, I don't like. Can we talk about this for a second? How bad sales is right now? Like, it's insane, man. Like, I don't get any videos.
I can't remember the last time I got an inbound video message to me, or someone out, doing cold outreach sending a video to me. Every single time I've gotten one of those, I've responded, and I've usually give out a referral.
The last person that did personalized outreach to me, I hired him because I was like, holy shit, man. Like, this is crazy because I never experienced this. And it was like, okay. Like he lied about like it, listening to my podcast and stuff like that. And I always test these people because they're like, I really love your podcast. I'm like, oh yeah, like what episode? And he's like, oh, or I was like, what's your favorite episode? And he's like, Ian Cognac. And I was like, yeah, you're full of shit, but that's the right answer. So like, you're hired, man. Like, you got a job right now because you're hired,
Yeah. So hey, you've heard it here first on the Life After Sales podcast. Use video in your prospecting and you will get hired.
Yeah, maybe I'll hire you.
There we go. Well, awesome, Eric. So really appreciate you coming on the show today. I think we ran into a lot of very interesting crossover content between music, poker, sales, and business. I'm sure it's very valuable for the audience. So Eric, where can the listeners find you online and how are you helping businesses today?
Yeah, so connect with me on LinkedIn for business stuff. That's always the best place to find me. It's at /thelowlysdr. And Instagram, you can find me at aboveground, ABUVEGROUND, aboveground.com. Website's currently under construction, but it should be up soon, probably by the end of this month, maybe by like the time this episode releases or something like that. And if you want to listen to my hip hop stuff, it's at MC Clockwork, MCEE Clockwork, all one word. You can find me on all the channels, all that good stuff. Just search it on Google, you'll find me. And then, like as far as like what I'm doing to help businesses right now, if you need SEO or you're looking for like more lead generation, inbound presence or stuff like that, you have a problem with content creation. So we do a lot of video SEO, making sure your website's optimized and the performance is running well. And we're going to figure out how to convert customers and how to position your company with a story and messaging and make sure that it's marketed correctly and create some cool content around it. I think that's what we do best, is kind of think outside the box, and we have like our ear to the ground and we have all the technical skills. So instead of going out and hiring one person for SEO and one person for video and one person to be your web dev and your copywriter, we'll take care of all of that. And, there's consulting aspect to it. So we'll help you like on all aspects of your business, but we'll make sure that we're executing all the tasks in an efficient manner. And I think we're one of the cheapest solutions out there as well, because we're kind of newer. So, you get a little bit of a price discount for that. And come check us out. We're happy to give you a free consultation and we can go from there.
Yeah, just an insane amount of value. And as someone who's a practitioner in this space day to day, Eric's really on the front lines above ground as an org, getting their hands dirty and testing new things all the time, making sure you get the current best practices. Let's hit them with that air horn real quick. Awesome. This is the Life After Sales podcast. I'm your host, Ding Zhang, the sales rapper. Go to salesrap.io for the most advanced creative tactics and strategies in B2B revenue today. Again, that's salesrap.io. I'm the sales rapper, rapping and bootstrapping my album will be coming out on February 4th. The first single, Buyer, is out. Check out the music video on YouTube and stream the song on Spotify and Apple. And Eric, once again, want to thank you for coming on the podcast today. And one last thing before we go. Are you down to drop a little freestyle?
Sure.
Let's hit it. Yeah. Yo, Eric, you say you're proud of me. We turn this shit into gold like alchemy, yeah. Ain't no telling me how is he. Lowly SDR, we increase the salary. Yo, it's new business. I'm in the kitchen cooking after I'ma do dishes. They like, ding, your freestyle game is too vicious. Yeah, and we on LinkedIn. Pass it off to Eric, you'll tell us what you've been thinking.
Yo, I'll feed you, need you, give you dishes. Yo, I ain't in the kitchen cleaning dishes. This is life after sales. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to make a hail bale of cash. Letting go, making the dash. I ain't trying to do that. Yo, ding, where's the stash? I see it under your nose. Ding, he rocking the illest flows. Yo, you know when we're doing it, it's close to one. Get it, son. Yo,
yeah. Like where the whales at? Sales music, nothing that I failed at. Actually, I think I succeed with the sales hat. Yeah, my DMs, they don't get mailed back. When I send a prospecting, I get emailed back. Yeah, that's the resale facts, the details at. Yeah, update the CRM. Yo, it's funny, we rapping, we like 3 bars in. Shout out to the
sales. I didn't go far, it's okay. I'm the lowly SDR.
Woo!
I'm on here trying to drop bars, and out of that shit, I'm spitting on top cars, cause I don't give a F. I do this, try to do this, I'm gonna pass the test. Yo, me and Ding on this hip-hop shit, we're just blessed. Yo,
life after sales with the podcast, you listening to flows today. I had to put my shades on for my poker face. Yeah, I know it's great. Hey, and you've been typing all these sales emails using all lowercase.
What did you say? Back in the day, I used to pay my check with the check phrase. I'm trying to do this, trying to get chips, with this instrument shit, flowing and stuff.
Hey, you know what's up. Hey. Thank you so much, Eric, for hopping on the show.
Closed One gonna drop. I got a feature on Ding's album. So
that's right. The song's called Closed One. Hey, let's play a little snippet. Shout out to Super Suit Sammy, the greatest producer in the world.
All the long days and sleepless nights, hope was burning low, had to keep it alive. Don't know if it'll close, but I'll be alright, cause I'm definitely not giving up without a fight. Oh, it's so fun, opportunity close one, and now it's time for the next one. Job not done, each day brings some new to overcome. All the long days and sleepless nights, hope was burning low, had to keep it alive. Don't know if it'll close, but I'll be alright, cause I'm definitely not giving up without a fight. Oh, it's so fun, opportunity close one, and now it's time for the next one. Job not done, each day brings some new to overcome.
None of this is new to me, sales, I speak it fluently. Soon you'll see clothes showing up on opportunities. Interest truly peaked when we got them on the line. Get it signed, cash a check after names on dotted lines. No time to unwind, they be monitoring your metrics. And check this, I be closing deals while playing Tetris. I don't need all your coaching and none of your tips. You'll choke and sink the boat while I'm running the ship. Just call me the captain, I'm crunching these quotes. Cold call you on a Sunday, eating cinnamon toast. Prospects are jarred when the value's hitting hard. I'm thinking I'm smart, I'm just a lowly SDR. Y'all be stuck in phone trees while I'm charming gatekeepers. Ideas in reach, bigger than thought leaders. Pissing off your boss cause it's 6 p.m. I'll reach deaths of DMs like it's ABM.
All the long days and sleepless nights, hope was burning low, had to keep it alive. Don't know if it'll close, but I'll be alright, cause I'm definitely not giving up without a fight. Oh, it's so
Awesome. Thank you so much. Fire verse to hear the full song and the full album. February 4th, 2022. Rapping and bootstrapping, dropping. You've just listened to an episode of the Life After Sales podcast. Not sponsored yet, but shout out to Incentive Pilot. Shout out to Pollen Technologies. Returns suck. Get your return process in order with the last mile provided by Pollen Technologies.